Good morning. My name is Dorotea Ottaviani, and I'm a postdoc researcher at the University of Bologna. Those are the TExTOUR guidelines for cultural tourism development. So what can you expect from this webinar? This is a step-by-step guide to achieve sustainable cultural tourism. This guidance is useful for any local community interested in developing their tourism sector through own heritage resources. It is based on the TExTOUR methodology, and it contains 7 steps. By following this guidance, you can expect to have a ready action plan on how to boost your cultural tourism based on your local heritage resources. And as you follow the TExTOUR guidance, you can call yourself a TExTOUR replicator. What is an action plan? A cultural tourism-led action plan consists of a number of actions that will together achieve a greater strategy for your local community. TExTOUR encourages the valorization and use of cultural and natural heritage as the resources on which each action is based. Each replicator is expected to learn, replicate, and tailor actions from other good practices of cultural tourism. What are the milestones that we were going to mention during this guideline? The milestone, or #M, are achievement of the replicator during their journey. And those achievements aim to re-energize their territories and are necessary steps to build their cultural tourism-led action plan. It is considered necessary to achieve the milestone in the right order to be able to move forward to the next step. What are the steps to achieve this cultural tourism development? So this is a 7-step methodology divided in 3 different phases. As you see, the steps go from establish your community of stakeholders to the implementation of the activities they are going to develop in phase 2. First phase, participatory establishment. The step 1, it's aiming towards the establishment of a community of stakeholders involved in the process. Time estimated for this activity goes from 1 month through the entire duration of the project. And it will allow the replicators to achieve the first milestone, which is the establishment of a stakeholder community. So what is a stakeholder? A stakeholder is a party that has an interest in an activity and that can either be affected or affect the activity itself. Stakeholders are included in 4 different types: public organization, private business, civic sector, and mixed organization. Non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, are special type of stakeholders as they can represent different governance arrangements: public civic, public-private, or private-civic. Stakeholders are subsequently divided according to their field of activity: public administration, financial sectors, culture, education, commerce, research, tourism, gastronomy, and so forth. Stakeholder engagement can be defined as an umbrella term that covers the full range of organizational efforts to understand and involve stakeholders and communities in activities and decisions. It can help organizations meet tactical and strategic needs, improve transparency, and build the trust of the individuals or groups whose support is critical to the long-term success of the project. As you can see, while engaging the stakeholders, there are a series of questions that we can ask ourselves, such as why, who, when, how, and how to assess the involvement of the stakeholders. Let's get deeper into those questions. So why engage stakeholders? Even before stakeholder engagement begins, it is necessary to define the purpose of the engagement, why it is necessary to engage the people, what is the common goal that we want to achieve, And once the questions are answered, the stakeholder engagement can start with the process of identification, so understanding who are the stakeholders to be involved. This is a process that requires a structured approach, consists of the consecutive actions that enable the successful mapping of interest stakeholders and the common ground, as well as the best methods to reach them. So those are some tips that we received from the original pilot of the of the TExTOUR methodology. This tip tells us, get to know the local community. If you learn to care about them, they will care about you and will gladly help to expedite the entire process. This will also help you to care more about the project. So how to engage? The process always includes an assessment for monitoring purposes, putting a feedback loop in place. This means, to be precise, that identify the stakeholders and community to be involved, so who are to be involved. And this phase includes assessing, analyzing, prioritizing, and understanding the different stakeholders that need to be engaged, and are clearly linked, and this is clearly linked to the why question, so why to engage and who to engage. Again, a tip about this step. So inclusivity is key. The end user must be part of the decision-making phase. Their input will be invaluable. In this way, you have a perfect cycle where the benefactor are also the beneficiaries of the results. So when to engage the stakeholders? Identifying the best time to engage the stakeholders and the community. When should their outreach activities begin, and how long should they last? Finally, how to engage the stakeholders. So it's important to choose the best method for engagement. How can the target group be best reached, and what are the most effective methods? And ask yourself questions like if it is necessary to innovate methodologically for each different group. So to have a different way to engage stakeholders according to their groups. Finally, assessing the engagement. Assessing the engagement process, it's the last step that allows a post-engagement review of the process, including the possibility of both qualitative and quantitative monitoring and a chance of improvement. So understand how the process has gone and what can be improved if you want to keep on engaging and keep involved stakeholders in your process. This allows us to reach in the second phase, the defining cultural tourism strategies. The first step, which is the second step in the overall process, but the first step in the second phase, is to identify local strengths and heritage resources. This activity could last around 2 weeks, and it will allow to achieve the second milestone, which is map the strengths and resources in the territory. This can be aimed through a workshop to identify the heritage, which will allow to define a vision shared by the participant as a group, and to help them identify both heritage and social resources that they could involve in the process. So the methodology to achieve this, it's a workshop that will have as an outcome a map of strengths and resources in the territory and a set of shared common goals for the territory itself. Some recommendations. During the workshop, emphasize on facilitating communication between different types of stakeholders, institution, local community, and so forth, who might have different understanding of the things. So try to make sure that your communication is tuned to the different type of stakeholders, both in terms of the way in which you communicate to them and what you communicate. Third step is the establishment of an action plan. This again will last around 2 weeks, and it will help you achieve the third milestone, the collection of actions. The aim is for the pilot coordinator and the participants to select and create a set of action that would be based on the goal expressed in the previous workshop. You will collect the action based on a pre-made set of good heritage-led tourism examples or create completely new ones. The aim is to highlight and steer reflections on social innovation, technological innovation, sustainability, and inclusion. This again will be achieved through a workshop, and it will have as an outcome the selection or development between 3 to 6 actions that will be brought to workshop 3. Against a recommendation, make sure the stakeholders familiarize with the project and its actions. Involve the most competent authorities, respectively, to give credibility and status to the entire process of implementation. The first step is to define a sustainable business model. This again can last around 2 weeks, and it will help achieve the first milestone, a feasibility business model plan. So the aim is to support the viability of your action through the fulfillment of a business model canvas, which has been adapted to focus on the specific aspect at the core of the project, TExTOUR, and pivotal to a smart, sustainable, and inclusive development of cultural tourism. It is a workshop, and its outcome is to set up the activities that support your territory in creating a coherent and realistic action plan. You should think about the money, though, way before this point. It will be important to start thinking about funding and economic resources from the very beginning of the process. Establish a way to follow up and self-evaluate the action plan. This is again a 2 weeks process, and it will help arrive to the 5th milestone, a set of targets to achieve through the action plan. So the aim of this step is to support your territory in defining feasible and relevant targets and KPIs, key performance indicators, that can be achieved through the proposed actions. Once the type of targets are defined, measurable figures are assigned to each target. This again can be achieved as a workshop, and it will set the targets that are used to evaluating the impact of the action plan and a list of KPI to monitor the impact of the actions. Finally, to define a final action plan. This step requires 1 week work, and it will allow to achieve the 6th milestone, a finalized action plan. So this step summarizes all the information gathered at the previous stages within the co-development phase into an organized plan with time estimation, budget, and responsibilities. This won't be achieved through a collaborative workshop, but it will be carried out by the pilot coordinator through the fulfillment of a template that is going to be provided. The outcome is a finalized action plan with detailed actions. So to reach the 3rd phase, the implementation phase. The 7th step is to implement the activities. The time, of course, depends on the action plan's characteristics, but anyway, it will start with the milestone 7, which is the kickoff of the implementation of the action plan. Our recommendation is to revisit all the implemented action. There's always room to improve, and you must plan ahead and implement actions early in order to give yourself time to revisit them at a later stage and polish your work for high caliber results. And it's important to recall that new collaboration will arise during the implementation, so there will be also room for new challenges coming along. Thank you very much for your attention.